My name is Alina, I'm 32, and I thought I understood my family, until one polite phone call quietly shattered everything I believed. That evening I was still at my desk, finishing a software deployment that had already stretched 12 hours too long. My apartment glowed with the pale blue light of dual monitors, coffee cups scattered like evidence of another sacrificed evening. When my phone vibrated, my shoulders relaxed for the first time all day. Her photo flashed on the screen, smiling the way she always did. Warm, familiar, comforting. I answered without hesitation. "Hey, Mom." "Oh, hi, sweetheart," she said, voice bright, almost rehearsed. "Just checking in. How's work?" We talked about nothing important. I told her about a stubborn bug in my code. She told me about her roses and how the neighbor's cat wouldn't stop digging in the flower bed. Everything felt normal, too normal in hindsight. Then she sighed. That sigh. Your parents learn exactly how to sigh when they're about to ask for something. Or hide something. "So," she said gently, "your father and I were talking. We thought maybe we'd take a little family trip next month. Nothing fancy. Just a short getaway." My heart lifted immediately. Family trip. Time away. Time together. With my schedule, that kind of thing felt rare and precious. "That sounds great," I said. "Where were you thinking?" There was a pause, just long enough to feel intentional. "Well, that's the hard part," she said. "Everything is just so expensive right now. Your dad's hours got cut, and you know your sister. Social media doesn't exactly pay the bills yet." I already knew where this was heading, and still, I didn't stop it. "We did the math," she continued softly, "and we just can't afford to include everyone this time." The words landed wrong. "Include everyone," I repeated. "Yes," she said quickly. "Flights, food, excursions, it adds up. We found a very affordable package for just the three of us. It's the only way we can manage." My chest tightened, confusion overtaking disappointment. "Mom, I can pay for my own ticket," I said. "You know money isn't the issue." "Oh no, honey," she replied immediately. "We'd never ask that of you. It wouldn't be right. A family vacation should be something parents provide." That familiar script again. I swallowed the feeling rising in my throat. "Okay," I said quietly. "I understand." "Oh good," she chirped, relief flooding her voice. "I knew you would. You've always been so mature about these things." Mature. That word had followed me my entire life. Code for self-sufficient, low maintenance, easy to overlook. After we hung up, I sat there staring at my screen long after the code stopped making sense. Something about the conversation nagged at me. Not the exclusion itself, I was used to that, but the logic. Why would they pay for a resort when they didn't need to? Especially when I owned a fully furnished coastal villa that sat empty most of the year. I pushed the thought aside. I didn't want to assume the worst. But assumptions had protected me before. For years I had been the dependable one. The successful daughter. The quiet solution when problems appeared. When my sister decided she wanted to be a travel influencer, I funded this starter phase. When her plans fizzled, no one mentioned repayment. When my parents needed help fixing their roof, I paid the contractor directly. I wasn't praised, I was expected. And still a year ago, I made what I thought was a generous, hopeful choice. I bought the villa. Not impulsively. Not recklessly. Years of savings. Careful planning. A 3-bedroom property overlooking the ocean, meant to be my refuge. When I told my family, their reactions were telling. My sister looked impressed but envious. My father looked uncomfortable. My mother looked excited. "A family beach place," she'd said, already claiming it. Gave them a key. "For emergencies," I told myself. Now, sitting alone in my apartment, my mother's words echoed again. "Too expensive to include you." 2 weeks later, scrolling aimlessly through my phone, I would discover exactly how expensive that lie truly was. And once I saw the truth, there would be no going back. I didn't know it yet, but my family wasn't at a cheap resort. They were somewhere far more familiar. And far more unforgivable. 2 weeks passed after my mother's call, and life returned to its usual rhythm. Or at least I pretended it did. I buried myself in work. Late nights. Early mornings. Extra tasks I didn't need to take on but welcomed anyway. Productivity was easier than feeling. Every now and then the thought surfaced. They're on vacation without you, but I pushed it down. I told myself I was an adult. Independent. Successful. I didn't need validation from anyone, especially not my family. Still, the quiet moments betrayed me. Dinner alone felt heavier than usual. Evenings stretched longer. I'd scroll through my phone without purpose, watching other people's lives unfold. Families laughing, couples traveling, siblings posing together. I wondered when my own place in my family had shifted from daughter to backup plan. That Tuesday night, just after 9, I was curled up on my couch eating reheated pasta straight from the container. No music, no TV, just scrolling. That's when I saw it. The post didn't come from my sister or my parents. They had been suspiciously quiet online. Instead, it was from Madeline, one of my sister's friends, someone I'd met a few times at holidays. The image was bright, sunlit, and unmistakably luxurious. My parents stood on a balcony, glasses raised, smiling like people without a single worry. My sister leaned against the railing, hair blowing in the breeze, glowing. Behind them stretched a familiar view, endless turquoise water meeting the horizon. My thumb stopped moving. Something about the scene felt wrong. I tapped the image and zoomed in. My stomach dropped. The white wicker chairs with navy cushions. The terracotta tiles, one with a tiny star-shaped crack near the door. The potted palm in the corner, placed there because it caught the afternoon light just right. I knew that balcony, 'cause it was mine. My breath hitched as my heart began to pound, loud and frantic. I scrolled down to the caption with shaking fingers. Living our best life. So grateful to join the fam for a few days at their stunning beach house. Their beach house. The words blurred. I stared at the photo again, desperately searching for anything that would prove I was wrong. But there was no mistaking it. That wasn't a similar villa. It wasn't coincidence. They were at my property. My phone slipped from my hand onto the couch as nausea surged through me. I pressed my palms into my eyes, trying to steady my breathing. Too expensive to include you. The lie replayed in my head, sharper now, crueler. They hadn't gone to a budget resort. They hadn't struggled to afford anything. They had used my home, my mortgage, my taxes, my sanctuary, without my knowledge, without permission, and without me. And they hadn't gone alone. They were hosting guests. A cold realization crept in as I opened my sister's profile. She'd switched it to private, but her profile picture was visible. There she was, sitting at the edge of my infinity pool, sunset blazing behind her, posed like a lifestyle influencer, using my house as a backdrop, using my generosity as content. The shock gave way to something darker. This wasn't an oversight. It wasn't miscommunication. It was deliberate, planned, executed with precision. They hadn't just excluded me. They had replaced me. I paced my living room, every step fueled by a growing clarity. The years of quiet resentment lined up like evidence in a courtroom. The loans that were never repaid, the emergencies that somehow always landed on me, the way my feelings were minimized while my sisters were catered to. And now this. They had counted on my silence, on my patience, on my habit of swallowing discomfort to keep the peace. My phone buzzed again. Another notification from Madeline's post. Comments pouring in. Compliments. Heart emojis. Praise for a home that wasn't theirs. Something inside me hardened. I considered calling my mother, demanding answers. But I already knew how that would go. Excuses. Deflection. Guilt wrapped in concern. I thought about texting my sister, but I could already hear her voice. You're overreacting. Well, words were their weapon. So I chose action. I opened my laptop and booked the earliest flight I could find. 6:15 the next morning. Expensive. Last minute. I didn't hesitate. I wasn't going on vacation. I was going to reclaim what was mine. As the confirmation email hit my inbox, my hands finally stopped shaking. Because for the first time I wasn't wondering if I deserved better. I was ready to demand it. They thought I didn't know. They thought I wouldn't come. But by sunrise, I would be standing at the front door they never thought I'd open. Sleep never came. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while the minutes crawled toward morning. Every time I closed my eyes, another memory surfaced. Small moments I'd dismissed for years, now lining up with brutal clarity. Like the time I was 16 and saved for months to buy concert tickets, only to be told to give mine to my sister because her friends were going and she would have been devastated. Or my college graduation, where my parents left early because my sister was having a meltdown over a breakup. I'd sat there in my cap and gown, smiling for photos that barely included me. I had always been the understanding one. Understanding, I realized, was just another word for convenient. At 4:30 a.m. I gave up on sleep. I showered, dressed, and packed with mechanical precision. No cute outfits, no vacation plans, just practical clothes, my laptop, and essentials. This wasn't a getaway. It was a confrontation. The car ride to the airport passed in silence. The city was still asleep, streetlights flickering as if nothing monumental was happening. I felt detached, like I was watching someone else's life unfold. The airport was quiet and sterile, filled with tired travelers clutching coffee cups and carry-on bags. A woman at the check-in counter smiled and asked if I was heading somewhere fun. Something like that, I replied. On the plane, I pressed my forehead to the cool window as the city fell away beneath us. Somewhere between takeoff and cruising altitude, the anxiety gave way to resolve. This wasn't about money. It never had been. It was about being treated like a resource instead of a person. About being excluded from joy while being expected to fund it. About watching my own life turned into something others felt entitled to use. 2 hours later, the plane descended over shimmering blue water and white sand. Paradise, untainted, beautiful, and completely unaware of the storm arriving with me. At the rental counter, the attendant chatted cheerfully, sun-kissed and relaxed. "Here for a vacation?" she asked. I almost laughed. I drove through familiar streets without needing directions, muscle memory guiding me. But I didn't pull into the driveway. Parked 2 blocks away. I wanted no warning. No chance for rehearsed excuses. No time to hide. The air was warm and heavy as I stepped out of the car, the scent of salt hanging in the breeze. With every step toward the house, my heartbeat grew louder. Then I saw it. Beach towels draped over my balcony railing. Bright colors I didn't own. Laughter floated through the open windows. Music played softly, carefree and cruel in its normalcy. They weren't just staying there. They were comfortable. My sanctuary had been transformed into a party backdrop. I walked up the stone path slowly, deliberately. Each step felt like crossing a boundary, one I'd been taught my whole life not to cross. The key felt solid in my hand. Mickey. Paused at the door, listening. Glasses clinking. Someone laughing too loudly. The sound sliced deeper than any argument could have. Then I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The cool air washed over me as I removed my shoes out of habit. I walked silently down the hall toward the open living space. The scene froze into my memory forever. My father lounged on my sofa, beer in hand, relaxed and smiling at the television. My mother stood at the kitchen island, my island, arranging snacks like she belonged there. My sister stood near the glass doors with her friend, phone raised, posing and laughing. They looked happy, carefree, home. I stepped fully into the room. The music kept playing, but the energy shattered instantly. My father's smile vanished. My mother's hands froze mid-motion. My sister's phone slipped slightly as her face drained of color. The silence was absolute. What are you doing here?" my sister whispered. I met her gaze, calm and steady, feeling something inside me finally settle. "Checking in," I said evenly. They stared at me like I was a ghost. I took another step forward and let my eyes sweep over them all. "Since you're enjoying my house without me," I continued, "I figured I'd stop by." No one spoke, so I did. "You have 10 minutes to pack," I said quietly. "Then you're leaving." They thought I was the quiet one. They didn't realize quiet doesn't mean powerless, and I was just getting started. The silence after my words felt unreal, like the air itself had frozen. My father was the first to move, slowly setting his beer down as if the simple action required careful thought. My mother's eyes darted between us, her expression shifting rapidly. Shock, confusion, calculation. My sister recovered last, her disbelief morphing quickly into indignation. 10 minutes, she snapped. "Are you serious right now?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. "I'm completely serious," I said. "You were told this house was unavailable. You came anyway. And you lied to me to do it." My mother stepped forward, her hands raised in a calming gesture she'd perfected over decades. "Sweetheart, this isn't what you think. Plans changed last minute. The resort." "Stop," I said. The word landed hard. "No more stories. No more spinning. I've seen the photos." Her mouth closed instantly. My father cleared his throat, attempting authority. "Alina, we're your family. This doesn't require threats. You're right, I replied. It requires respect. And that's already been broken. I glanced at my sister's friend, who stood frozen near the sliding door, clutching her phone. This doesn't involve you, I said to her gently. But it's time for you to leave. She didn't argue. She grabbed her bag and rushed past me, avoiding eye contact as if she could erase herself from the situation. Once the door closed behind her, the atmosphere thickened. My sister crossed her arms. You're overreacting. We were going to tell you. When? Yes. After the photos. After the stay. Or after you left pretending nothing happened. She opened her mouth, then closed it. My mother exhaled sharply. You're being dramatic. We didn't think you'd mind. That sentence hurt more than the lie. You didn't think, I said quietly. That's the problem. I walked to the front door, picked up one of my sister's shopping bags and placed it outside. Then another. Precise. You have 8 minutes, I said. That's when panic finally set in. We don't have anywhere else to go, my mother said, voice trembling. Our flight isn't for days. I met her eyes. You should have thought of that before using my house like a free hotel. My father scoffed. So you're just going to throw us out? Like strangers? I let out a short, humorless laugh. Strangers don't usually lie to your face. I moved toward the guest room where my parents had been staying. Their suitcases lay open, clothes spilling everywhere. I zipped one shut and dragged it into the hallway. My mother followed, her tone shifting to pleading. Please. Think about what this will do to the family. I stopped and turned to her. The family survived when I paid your bills. When I fixed your roof. When I funded dreams that went nowhere. It will survive this too. My sister stood in the doorway, eyes glossy. You're so selfish, she said. You always think about yourself. The words felt absurd. I spent years thinking about all of you, I replied. This is just the first time I didn't. That seemed to land. The house erupted into frantic movement. Zippers, drawers, muttered complaints. I continued methodically, clearing their belongings from common spaces. Every item removed felt like reclaiming another inch of myself. 20 minutes later, they stood by the door, bags at their feet. My father avoided my gaze. My mother's expression hardened into cold resentment. My sister wiped her face angrily, mascara streaked and ruined. You've destroyed this family, my mother said bitterly. I shook my head. No. I stopped pretending it was something it wasn't. I opened the door and stepped aside. They left without another word. I watched from the doorway as they stood on the curb, arguing quietly, my father already on his phone searching for last-minute accommodations. When I finally closed the door, the silence was overwhelming. I locked it and leaned against it, breathing deeply for the first time in years. I thought the hardest part was over. I didn't yet realize that reclaiming my home was only the beginning of reclaiming my life. The moment the door clicked shut, the villa felt impossibly quiet, not peaceful, hollow. I stood there for a long time, hands still resting on the lock, listening for sounds that weren't there anymore. No laughter, no footsteps, no music drifting from someone else's playlist. Just the steady hum of the air conditioning and the distant rhythm of the ocean outside. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt exposed. I walked through the house slowly, room by room, seeing it through new eyes. Towels lay crumpled on bathroom floors. Half-empty water bottles cluttered nightstands. Makeup stained the vanity in the bedroom my sister had claimed without asking. Every trace of them felt like a fingerprint left behind, evidence that my boundaries had once again been crossed. So I cleaned. Not out of obligation but intention. I stripped the beds, folded the sheets, and set them aside for washing. I wiped down counters until the surfaces gleamed again. I opened every window and let the ocean breeze roll through, carrying away the stale air and something heavier I couldn't quite name. With each task, the knot in my chest loosened. My phone buzzed. Once. Then again. Messages stacked quickly. My mother, my father, my sister. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Later I sat on the balcony, the same balcony from the photos, and watched the sun sink into the water. The waves rolled in, indifferent to human drama. For the first time since arriving, I allowed myself to feel everything. The sadness came first. Not sadness for what I did, but for what I had wanted. Family that celebrated me. Parents who didn't see me as a solution. A sister who didn't confuse entitlement with love. I realized then that I'd spent years trying to earn a place I should have been given freely. That night, I slept deeply for the first time in weeks. The next morning I turned my phone back on. The messages flooded in. From my mother, I hope you're happy. I raised you better than this. From my father, we need to talk. This isn't over. From my sister, you ruined everything. I read them calmly, without the familiar sting. They weren't apologies. They were accusations. I powered the phone off again. For the next 2 days, I stayed at the villa alone. Swam. I walked the beach at sunrise. I sat in silence without needing to fill it. The house slowly felt like mine again. Not just legally but emotionally. On the 3rd day I made 2 phone calls. The first was to a locksmith. By afternoon, every lock had been replaced with a new system. Old keys rendered useless. Access revoked. The second call was to a property management company. From now on, no one would enter without explicit permission. Logged, tracked, and approved. No more assumptions. No more emergencies that only landed on me. When I flew home, something had shifted. I wasn't angry anymore. I was clear. Weeks passed. I didn't reach out. Neither did they, at least not in any way that mattered. No accountability. No recognition of the betrayal. Just silence laced with resentment. I grieved, not loudly but deeply. Grief for the family I thought I had. For the version of myself that believed love could be bought with generosity and patience. For the years I spent shrinking to avoid conflict. But grief made room for something else. Self-respect. I understood now that boundaries don't destroy families. They reveal them. And sometimes, the hardest truth is realizing that walking away isn't abandonment. It's survival. I thought the story ended when I changed the locks. But the final question still lingered. Had I gone too far? Or not far enough? Time has a way of clarifying things. Weeks turned into months. And the silence between me and my family remained unbroken. At first it felt unnatural, like holding my breath for too long. I kept expecting an apology, or at least an attempt at accountability. Something that showed they understood what they had done. Never came. What did arrive were half-hearted messages that blamed circumstances instead of choices. Comments about how everything went too far, and how families don't treat each other that way. Not once did anyone say we were wrong. And that told me everything I needed to know. For a long time I questioned myself. Late at night, doubt would creep in. Maybe I could have handled it differently. Maybe I should have talked it out first. Maybe showing up unannounced was too extreme. But every time I replayed the moment I saw that photo, the smiles, the caption, the casual entitlement, I remembered the truth. They didn't forget about me. They chose to exclude me. They chose to lie. They chose to use what I built without permission, without honesty, and without remorse. And choices have consequences. I started therapy shortly after everything happened. Not because I felt broken, but because I wanted to understand why I had tolerated so much for so long. What I learned was uncomfortable but freeing. I had been conditioned to equate love with usefulness. As long as I was helpful, reliable, and quiet, I was accepted. The moment I asked for respect instead of appreciation, the dynamic collapsed. That wasn't love. That was dependency disguised as family. I also learned that boundaries feel like betrayal to people who benefit from your lack of them. The villa is still there. Clean. Peaceful. Green. I go when I want, stay as long as I choose, and invite only those who respect the space, and me. For the first time it feels like what it was always meant to be. A sanctuary, not a sacrifice. As for my family, the door isn't permanently closed. But it isn't wide open either. Reconciliation would require accountability, changed behavior, and genuine respect. Not guilt. Not excuses. Not pretending nothing happened. I'm no longer negotiating my worth. I don't hate them. But I no longer rescue them. And that difference has changed my life more than any confrontation ever could. I'm lighter now. Calmer. More present. I don't dread holidays or phone calls. I no longer brace myself to be asked for something. I choose relationships that are mutual, supportive, and honest. For the first time, I am not a supporting character in my own life. I am the main one. Sometimes, love isn't about holding on harder. Sometimes it's about letting go and trusting yourself enough to stand alone. And that brings me to you. If your family lied to you, excluded you, and treated your life like a free resource, what would you have done? Would you have sat down for a calm conversation? Or would you have finally drawn the line? Because choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary.